Welcome everybody to episode 41. And today...
41, Mark's age.
Mark's age.
If I wish.
And today we have Mark. Mark Smith.
Hello.
Mark was with us at Drum Education Live when it was born. But
then he couldn't take me. He couldn't take it anymore, you know.
He couldn't take us. So
high pace.
He's like, nah.
Too much lifestyle changes.
But we're very happy he's here so we can find out what.
Speak for yourself.
And get to know a bit more because, you know, Mark was my teacher.
You know, you were my first proper student. You know that, don't you?
No.
Wow, we didn't know that. He was your first teacher, and you were his first
I wasn't
student.
Your first student.
You were. I think you were in the. Well, let's say you were the first three. You sort of turned up about a week after I'd actually started teaching. Very, very early.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Couldn't get rid of you.
No.
He tried, and then we called him to do episode 41.
Okay, so we have to start with
the question.
Which I actually think, Mark, you came up with, which is, what do you think is missing from drum education today?
Okay, so I had a long think about this because I knew you were going to ask me, and I didn't want to give a really miserable answer. So I came up with this. The thing missing is there's too much what and not enough why.
Ooh, I like that.
There's literally too much material at the moment, I think. There's too many videos on how to make chops, and there's not enough concept underneath it. That's kind of my starting point with it always, because I'm a big believer that you should understand why you're doing something. Otherwise, you just end up going in circles. So for example, it's very, very easy to sit down and learn a lick that somebody's written out. But if you don't know how they've come up with it in the first place, you're never going to be able to repeat it yourself. You'll never absorb the language. So that I think that's it's almost the thing that's missing is that absence of concept. So,
but do you think this is the fault of the people doing the videos, just showing the licks, or is it the fault of the student not being interested?
You're trying to get me in trouble early on.
Yeah, of course. That's what I like to do. Is it the first time you're watching one of these? Come on, man.
No, it's not. No. So fault is kind of a loaded word.
I know.
But so it's both. So from the teacher's point of view, and there's this kind of drive to create content all the time. Everybody falls into the trap because it's what you're told you should do, I think. And that's, you know, and one of my friends does digital copyright marketing actually said something quite profound about it. He said something along the lines of, will anyone miss it if it isn't there? And I try and think about it when I post things. Right, not always, because, you know, I've got a TikTok account, God help me. So, you know, it's easy to sort of put attention grabbing things on there. So I think from the teacher's point of view, it's a catch-22. Is that you've got to be seen to be putting things out there. And I think the difficulty is that now this is where it goes to, so that I'm going to blame the students as well. But again, blame is a loaded word, but let's go with it. Everybody wants a quick fix, right? So I'm going to go on a tangent, so bear with me. But my other sort of main hobby is powerlifting. And I bought my own weights now. They've shut the gyms and everything. And one of the things in power, now it's just a hobby. I'm not particularly good at it, but there's a lot of crossovers. And I had a training session with a powerlifting coach just before the last lockdown, and he played drums as well. And we were talking about this, and there's a concept in powerlifting called majoring in the minors. So in powerlifting, there's 3 lifts. You've got squat, the deadlift, and the bench press. and then you've got the accessories, right? In order to get good at it, you have to get your squat, bench, and deadlift up to a high level, which means lots of repetition of the same thing. What usually happens is people will come into it, and about a week later, so they get given a really simple program, very straightforward, go and do this, and go and do it for about 6 months, and they'll come and go, oh, but can I add this in? What about this? No. And it's, to me, it's the same thing with drums. Is like the squat, bench, and deadlift are like your single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles, your foundation concepts. And what people do, it's a bit like, right, so stick control. We all like stick control. How many people do you know have played it from beginning to end?
Very few.
Yeah, probably count them on one hand. I played it from beginning to end actually because of, well, not because of Felipe, he didn't stand there and make me do it, but just because of the conversation. Well, I figured, you see, stick control is written like it is for a reason. It's written in that order and it works. And what do people do? Oh, how can I interpret the first page? It's like, hang on a minute. You haven't play it first, then go back to it. And so I think that's where this content-itis comes in, is they're looking for content. So concepts aren't sexy. This idea that you've got to sing what you're playing, that you've got to sit and work on like your 90 degrees and your 5 degrees, and it's boring, right? But you've got to do it. Otherwise you won't get any good at it. And nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
What they want to see is, well, I say not nobody, a lot of people just want to see the flash chops.
It's usually what happens with stick control, because I make everybody start stick control 60 beats per minute playing quarter notes.
Yep.
When they get to the third page, the question is, can I play 80 beats per minute eighth notes? I said, no.
No, you can't.
No.
Yeah.
I have an extra question. Do you think that this, I guess it's like this impatience, wanting a quick fix, do you think it's exacerbated by social media? Do you think this is a new thing, or are you seeing more of it, or do you think it's people are always like that?
It's an amplifier. So all I can give you is my experience teaching. I've been pretty lucky, I think, because a lot of my students, I don't really have like lazy students, but I would say 90% of them are hobbyists. And out of the 90% of hobbyists, you get like 2%, maybe 1 or 2 who are serious hobbyists, right? So they're never going to do it for a living. Actually, it's probably higher. Let's say 98% of players are hobbyists and 2%. And they take it as seriously as, say, like somebody like Kira, who's wanted to be a professional, or is a professional. Sorry, I shouldn't wanted to be a professional.
Yeah, she wanted to be a professional. She doesn't want it anymore, but now she's stuck with it. So what can she do?
Comment, if ever. I mean, it was like sorry, going off on a tangent again, your question the other day about this idea, you know, what is a professional? And those, you know, so you can get people who are very serious amateurs who just, they don't, the difference is it's time. They don't put, you know, the hours in that, because it's just, you know, they've got other things to do. But so I would say out of all the people I teach, roughly 10% of them are what I would consider serious drummers. So they're the ones who will learn sight read. They're the ones who will play stick control and understand, you know, they'll work on the flam heights, and they'll sit with the metronome, and, you know, and they'll do stuff like play along with a record and record themselves on their phone. That's something I'm getting people to do a lot of at the moment, and like the self-analysis thing. And they understand concepts like having your own voice. What are you trying to say here? Those kind of things. What are you hearing? And then there's a lot of players who are just happy to play what's in the book, which is fine as well. But I think there's a risk with those people that the internet can give them the illusion that it's a little bit easier than it is. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So if it looks easy, your brain thinks it's easy. I mean, you know, you see it in double pedal all the time. Which technique should I use? All of them. All of them. How do I do it? Play stick control on your feet. It's just there.
Yeah.
Kieran, so I don't, I've altered my position on the heels down thing a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
I'm very insistent that they play heels down to start with.
Okay.
My whole thing is, if you can play practice heels down through stick control, until you get to the flam section, you'll have a solid foundation. And everyone I've done that with ends up, you know, in order to want to do that in the first place, you've got to be fairly serious about it.
Yeah.
So it kind of weeds out the quick fix people, because you know, because when you get to the flam section, that's the moneymaker, and for me, that's where it's at in stick control, especially for your feet, because you have all the techniques. You can't do it just heels down; it doesn't work. You have to, but also, and here's where I diverge very slightly. Then it's sort of getting them to understand that the way they do heel up is going to be slightly different to the way I do heel up because of your levers. So it gets more complicated. That's the important thing is like, and there's too much interpretation and not enough. You need that baseline all the time, you know. And there's and to me, like, I still think I suck at paradiddles. You know, there's always work to do. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
I saw the other day one of these internet marketing gurus, and he was saying more and more people just want to talk and no one wants to listen.
Yep.
And I think we are in this because, you know, all of it, and then what happens is this guy, he does something and he has like 100,000 followers on Instagram, and then everybody starts doing the same thing because they want, which I'm not sure if it works or not. It's not the point, but it is nobody. It sometimes it's so simple. If you let the people who watch your videos reply and you actually answer the reply, you're going to learn a lot more. But now going back to the not the virtual world, but the concrete world. Let's go back in time. And my question is, who made you play the drums?
Dave Lombardo.
Dave Lombardo. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah. I can give it some context if you like. So.
Oh yes. How about some context, since we're so big about context?
So there's two answers to that question. So why did I start playing? Girls.
Yeah, obviously.
Which is a ridiculous reason to start.
No, it's not. It's the reason why everybody starts.
All my mates played an instrument.
Wasn't mine.
Let me rephrase that, because we're living in different times now. This is the reason that most men start playing.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of my friends had girlfriends, and it was just, I didn't have a thing, you know. And I was like 15, and I didn't have a thing, and I was 15, and I thought, I'm gonna play the drums. And I played on buckets at a friend's house and thought, oh, this is easy. Yeah. And then bought a drum kit, like a really, really cheap one. It cost like £10 and could go boom, da, boom, boom, da. I thought, right, that's it. I can play. I know what I'm doing. Had some lessons, didn't really get on with the teacher. But mostly because this is something I think is important. It was one of the things that made me be at pains to explain why I'm getting people to do things. Right? So if I show you a paradiddle and don't show you what it's for, where it works, where it doesn't work, how many, I mean, you can spend 5 years studying a single paradiddle and the orchestrations and permutations and yada, yada, right? And I was partly youthful impatience because I wanted to play Slayer and I wanted to play Morbid Angel and I wanted to play Death. And he also said to me, oh, you have to master single pedal before you play double pedal, which is wrong, because I think if you're going to play double pedal, just start playing double pedal. It doesn't do the thing you want to do. There's no mastering of any of it. So that's where that started. And I was in a really rubbish band at school and all the usual ways in. And then I went to see Slayer at Hammersmith in 1990, and that was it. I was like, I'm doing that. I saw his drum kit with the 4 rack toms, 2 floor toms, double bass drum, red lights. And I was like, I'm doing that. And I did. But I did it really badly for about 20 years. And then at some point, I think I got all right at it. You know? But that was, I remember it to this day, you know, and there were several moments like that where, like, sort of when I saw Thomas Lang at MI the first time, when I was there in '96. And Mick, there's a guy called Mick Moreno, who's an Australian blues player, and he sort of did the introductions, and he said, "You guys wait till you see Thomas," because nobody knew who he was then. And he came in, and it was like, fuck. You could just see everybody go, Jesus, we're terrible. And I remember him. Now, maybe this is one of the things that stuck in my head about the foundation thing. He came in and said, all of you are holding the stick wrong, and made everybody start from that, from scratch. Like, your grip is wrong. You need to do it again. Like, and it was, you know, it's what you needed, is somebody to take you right back and go, this is wrong. Do it again. Wait, you know, wrong. I can't think of the word he said at the time, but and he, again, it's probably, he was the one who put the heels down thing in my head again. And this idea that you should, the stick control thing. So I'm just remembering this as I'm going along, actually. It's been 20, 30 years nearly, a long time. But Dave Lombardo was
1986, 25 years.
Yeah. So and particularly the double bass section in War Ensemble. That was what turned me on to double bass, because it's the most powerful thing I've ever heard, and to this day it gives me goosebumps every time I listen to that song. So yeah, slightly longer answer than just Dave Lombardo.
I've got so many questions as normal, but I actually have thought of another one since we've been talking, because you said about you went to a teacher and you weren't really sure, and consequently you explain stuff when you teach. You explain why, and I have to say, you know, you were my first teacher, but you were excellent, because you just.
I thought she was going to say, that's a lie.
Yeah, I was clenching there, I have to say.
No, but you always did explain why. You were really thorough, and you just showed me all the good drummers, you know, and you just kind of led the way. I feel very lucky, but I want to know where, how having that one bad teacher, did that like shape how you would then teach others?
Yeah.
Like, did you study to be a teacher, or was it all like trial and error?
So, no, I didn't study to be a teacher. So I'm a therapist as well, and these are related, but just bear with me a second. So my thing, so I had a business coach who used to one of the things he would do is they dig out this thing called core process, which is like your underlying concept again. And my underlying concept is I have an ability to simplify complicated things. And it goes through everything I'm doing, right? So what I'm trying to do all the time is provide motivation by making you see that you can do it, and then showing you that it's not as hard as you think. Most of the time you just think you can't do it. So, and I think probably in terms of training to teach, doing training as a cognitive behavioral therapist and hypnotherapist has been very useful, because most of the problems people come across, my approach has completely changed, right? For one reason or another. But most of what I spend my time doing is teaching them how to keep going when they get it wrong. And that, I think, is probably 90% of what I'm doing. And I had to teach myself to do that. So one of the reasons now, a big thing that's changed for me is I feel like when I do my videos now, it's just one take. Do you remember we talked about this a while ago, right? And I did some work on it over the summer, and now I do everything in one take. And it's basically because I don't give a shit if I make a mistake. And that I came to that and I do make mistakes. I dropped a stick the other day and it felt like eternity. And you watch it back on the video and it's like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't break, it looks fine. And teaching, I think, again, this is why I get them to record themselves, teaching them that what they think about their playing is completely divorced most of the time from what they actually sound like. And if you understand that, you can then start to put what you think you sound like together with what you actually sound like.
It's the same as when the first time you hear your voice recorded.
Yeah,
you know?
it's exactly, or on video. Now I think I look fabulous on video. But no, it's exactly the same. It's getting past the, and so I think a lot of it, because 90% of it is, so it's not just dogged determination, but there's a lot to be said for just keeping going.
Yeah.
You know, a lot to be said for it. Just don't stop, you know, because, and that's where I used to do this. And I remember Colin Walway said to me years ago, you're looking for the magic fix all the time. And it's like, oh, if I learn the molar technique, will this, and it does, but also the molar technique doesn't do everything. So if I want to move around the toms quickly, I don't, for me, it doesn't work. I have to use sort of more of a Gladstone thing. I don't really use fingers that much, except when I'm doing doubles. So it's, but I've had to kind of work it out by listening to what I'm playing and going, does that sound like I think it does? Do you know what the most annoying thing is? I spent years learning loads of complicated shit, and I've stripped about 80% of it out because it sounds horrible. And I don't regret doing it, but it turns out that what I hear sounds good to me, if that makes sense. And that's as far as you're ever going to get with it. You know, I don't, whether you like it or not at that point is a different thing, but that sort of gives you the confidence to play what you want to play. So understand, and that came from my old supervisor, a lady called Maggie Chapman, who helped me deal with stage fright, because I used to get horrendous stage fright, really bad. And she sat me down, and so I had to do this workshop when I was in college, where I had to hypnotize a whole class full of people, and all these people know what you're doing. So it's a bit like getting up. You remember when you're in music school, you have to get up and play in front of everybody, and it's horrible, right? And she said to me, you do know you are incapable of judging your own work, so don't bother. You can't do it. And it's true, you can't. It's not for you to, so it's not, I try not to say whether my drumming's any good or not. All I can do is tell you whether I like it. Or, you know, if I'm working with, there's an Italian band I'm in at the moment called Pagarigo, just got an album coming out on the 15th. You've probably seen all the weird Italians talking on my page from time to time, because the album's finally being released. So in that instance, they tell me what to do. And I'm quite happy with that. You know, it's like, okay, what do you want here? And that leads to some interesting conversations, you know, play it more blue or something like that. But I think so that having had to overcome some of these things myself, and so you've got a conflation of all these things that's brought me to where I am with it. But I really do think 90% of the time, what I'm really doing is saying, come on, you'll be all right. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Which seems easy, but you've got to be quite patient to do it.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask about your hypnotherapy stuff.
Okay.
How did you get into that? What was the motivation? And
can you hypnotize people to become drummers?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work, sadly.
I would go for a session if you could.
Well, the reason it doesn't work is because you have to have the physical movement. So like it's two different parts that it's been tried. You can get certain things. What you can do, the biggest advantage of it is teaching people to calm down when they're performing. And that's where it's really useful.
Tell us that then.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually really horribly simple. And I'm going to use you as a guinea pig then. So when you get stage fright, where do you feel it?
I tense up. I guess shoulders.
Okay, is that where you notice it first?
I don't know, or maybe my chest.
Okay, so what I want you to do the next time you feel it is make a note of where it is.
Yep. And
mentally look at it.
Okay.
Okay, consciously choose to look at it. Don't try and make it go away. Don't try and think, oh God, I've got it. Oh God, this can't, right? Just, okay, it's there. I'm going to watch it. And you watch it like it's a wild animal. So like you're watching a bunny rabbit in the park or something, or a dog running around. You make no judgment. You don't try and change it. And what will happen is after about a minute, it will start to diminish. It's called reciprocal inhibition. It's called reciprocal inhibition. The anxiety is caused by the unconscious. When you use your conscious brain to look at it, it switches that other bit off. They're binary. They can't be on at the same time. And it really is that simple. You just have to do it a lot. I've done it myself. So I used to get a thing that I called the 4-bar panic. So when I was recording, I'd get to bar number 4 and I'd make a mistake on the 3rd beat every time. And it was awful. It was so frustrating because I could do it. And what happened was I'd get this feeling in the pit of my stomach and it would get worse and worse and worse. And I'd try and get rid of it. So one day I sort of went, and I remember this vividly. I went, "Oh, you again, go on then." And it went, and it was fine. And I had to practice, right? So it doesn't get rid of it immediately. You have to practice it. And you're always going to have something like that. But again, it's this painfully simple. See, people don't like that because it's too easy. But that is it. That is it. There's nothing else to it. You have to learn to observe your body, see what it's doing. It's like when I'm teaching bass drum technique. I don't really teach technique. I teach observation. That sounds pretentious, doesn't it? But anyway, it's too late. So what I'm really interested in is you being able to identify where the tension is, because that's actually what's causing the technical problem most of the time. You know, you see it with Moeller, where people kind of do that rather than the drop, and it's kind of getting them to, okay, where are you? What's happening? Are you feeling any tension? Are you pulling down? And it's so the mechanism that causes the tension is the same in drums and in stress is stress, and your body only does 2 things. It's either stress or it's not. It can't do anything else. And if you give it a way to process the stress, it tends to go away quite quickly. And then you have to practice it. So that's something to, I mean, when you're recording next time, it's something to try. Just sit and watch. It's very interesting because it will do all kinds of shit. It'll move across your body. It'll go up and down. It's how you tell psychosomatic pain from real pain as well. It moves. Real pain doesn't move. Injury pain's static. Psychosomatic pain goes all over the place. So there you go.
Why hypnotherapy then? What?
Because the student was a hypnotist and I had a phobia, which I'm not going into here, and she helped me get rid of it. And then I said to her, "Oh, I think I could probably do this." I've always been interested in weird things anyway, and just sort of borrowed some money, did the introductory course, and that was it. I was hooked. I loved it. And it just is, to me, it's the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's one of the great things about drums is it produces a trance state. It's why it's used in religious ritual. You know, you've heard the phrase, "the drums play you." You know, that thing that happens every so often that everyone practices hours and hours to get this half an hour. Fuck, that was amazing. I don't know how I did it. Yeah, it's the same thing. So, but that was into it. Sorry.
And how do you deal, for example, it may sound a little bit strange, but for example, when you have a student that the person seems to like to not be able, you know, there's you know, the person likes, yeah, this is not for me. Like there's almost pride when the person says something like that.
So I usually ask the question, so you mean they're sort of reveling in not being able to do it?
Yeah, and you know, and they look at, for example, they say, "Can you play it?" And I try to avoid that as much as I can because I've been doing this for quite some time, and even the most simple beat I can play is going to sound a lot better than theirs because they're doing, I don't know, lessons for a year. But then, you know, if it gets to a point where I have to play, there are people that they look at me like, "Yeah, it's not for me. You're great. I'm terrible."
Do they come back?
Oh yeah, I have.
Okay.
Being very specific, I have a case of a guy who's here for 4 years.
So ask him how he knows. How do you know? Like there's 2 questions I really like. How do you know, and what's stopping you? And actually, see, now I'm giving away all my secrets because most of what I do is just ask the same irritating question over and over again. But it's true. Like he's coming back for a reason. What he's doing is projecting. So it's avoidance behavior, right? So like the kids do it in school when you ask them a question. Did you do your practice? And they do the maths face and they go, But I mean, I can only tell you what I would do, which is in that instance, I would say to him, what's making you think you can't do it like that? How do you know? Because people don't get that far. They don't, you know, we think we know a lot of things, but we don't. And you don't really know anything till you say it, and you just push. Okay, well, you know, what makes you think you're special? Everyone else taught can do it. No, seriously, like what? Why do you think you're unique?
So actually, the person thinks that they're better than everybody else.
Oh, do they?
No, I'm just saying because, you know, everybody can do it, but I'm different. I can't. I'm better.
Well,
I'm better than you.
The I'm special thing is very common, and like across, not just in music. And if you meet people who come in for therapeutic treatment who think that they can't be treated, and it's an avoidance mechanism. They're actually scared of going in, which is completely understandable. And it's the same thing with performance, you know, and gently call them out on it over and over. But I think, how do you know is a good question, because it's what I ask myself. How do I know? It's one of the things, like if I record, I have a 2-day rule. So if I record something and I think it sucks, I go back and listen to it in 2 days. And then generally, I'm not saying it doesn't suck, but it doesn't suck as much as I thought it did. So yeah, that's how I would do that. And I get it in the schools all the time.
Mental health.
Oh yes.
You are really good at talking about it.
You are mental. How do we do this?
You are mental.
Right.
No, you've been great, especially lately with lockdown, I have to say. Mm-hmm. You're putting on your Facebook about strategies, things to do.
Yep.
To ask yourself,
yep.
How does drumming fall into that for you?
It gives me something to aim at all the time, so I can't ever finish it, and I really like that. I'm constantly getting better at it, and it gives me a reason to do something. So I think, but also that I just go in and thrash sometimes, and I feel better. It's the meditative state. You're just going in, you know, bash about and hit it and see what I like, and sometimes I come out with something good. And do you remember that modulation I put on Instagram the other day? That was a result of one of those things. I just started playing. I thought, well, that's quite good. So there's a lot to be said for just sitting and thwacking until something comes out, you know. But it's I've always got something to do. The same reason I lift weights. It gives a purpose, and it's a very, especially if you're in a situation like we are at the moment, where you've got a meta threat hanging in the background all the time. Loss of control is one of the sort of most insidious things you can experience, because that causes all kinds of shit, because your brain does not like it. Just on that point, the reason I started posting those tips was actually mostly to help me, because I felt like I was screaming at the sky. Yeah. I'm not going to go into reasons for it, because I'm not that kind of show, but I think there've been a lot of mistakes made in the management. But anyway, and I sat down and I thought to myself, well, what can I actually do that's going to help? And I didn't. It gives me a sense of control. That's basically what it's for. Is like, look, I can help you. I can't do anything about these idiots over here, but you'll listen to me. You know, and it did. It turns out that quite a few people were helped by it, and that's, you know, and that's cool. So, and it's the same thing with drums. It's why I don't really do any teaching videos anymore. And this is a whole, because we could go on about this for hours. But like, the video that's got the most views on my channel is the one about leg pain and double pedal. Now, I wasn't expecting that. It's got 8,500, 9,000 views, something like that. Loads more than everything else. Loads of comments, loads of questions. But I feel like that kind of happened on its own. I was just trying to be helpful, and I happened to help with something. I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't planned. And I also, so if I was going to put something else out teaching-wise, it would have to be like that I don't like doing useless things, because it doesn't give me a sense of control. And it also contributes to I don't want to contribute to the noise either. Do you know what I mean? I quite have to contribute, like, I mean, it's doing a 30-second TikTok stick twiddling video is, you know, it's fun. It's throwaway. It's meant to be a bit of fun. But if I'm going to, I don't get any sense of control from that, if you see what I mean. Whereas actually helping somebody does give me that.
Are you a control freak?
I am, yeah. I'm just a control freak who knows he's a control freak. I'm
a control freak, and I'm in control of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's I suppose it's kind of, I know what does the trick for me, and so that helps me avoid doing unhelpful things, you know. And drums is certainly, and help, like teaching. I come out of a Saturday's days teaching on Saturday, and I feel really good. You know, even though I'm not keen on doing it online. I like it, but it gives me a bit of a headache staring at a screen. Well, I'm sure you're familiar with it at the moment. You get the miters. But I feel like I've done something, you know. So
cool.
Control freak.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your double pedal course? What is it?
No, it's a secret.
Where can people find it? You know, who's it aimed at?
The video course, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a short course on Udemy. It's called Feet of Fire. And it's about interpreting, so it's for intermediate to advanced pedal players. And it's about interpreting bars from the book Syncopation for the snare drummer on the double pedal. So it's to teach you to phrase, basically. So it's got bits of technique in there, but it's mostly about making musical phrases rather than the road drill stuff. The road drill stuff has been covered very well by other people. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. And again, it goes back to this, like, everybody knows you should be able to play the syncopation phrases on your double pedal, but how many people have done it? Yeah, and so the idea is, I made 8 hours of material and I sort of ended up using one of them. And it's, so the idea is you come away from it, if you had a page of syncopation stuck in front of you, you could interpret it in a couple of different ways. So you've got hours of routines and ideas, and which again brings us right back to where we came in, this idea of concept. If you understand the concept of interpretation of a rhythm, you know, I mean, you guys must know, well, you know, is it page 38? That's the famous one, isn't it? There's so many ways to play that, you know, eighth notes, triplets, quarter notes, quintet. Have you seen the quintuplet interpretations?
No.
The septuple interpretations?
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Quintuplet interpretations, you play the one and the and is on the first partial of the quintuplet and the fourth.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the sevens is on the first partial and the fifth or the sixth. Yeah, I'm rubbish at septuplets. I don't go anywhere near them. But the fives, but again, it gives you musical concept. And if you've done it in triplets, you can relate it across to fives. So that's what it's based on. It's on Udemy, the teaching platform.
Cool. We'll get the address.
Okay.
Feet on fire, you say?
Feet of fire.
Of fire. All right.
Yeah. Feet on fire is what I do on the weekend.
Love it. I guess what are you working on? What are you excited about for the 2021?
Going to the pub.
Same.
I don't go to the pub very much, but like I was pissed off when they shut the coffee shops, and I was pissed off when they shut the gyms. So anyway, drumming wise, I'm working on so 2 things: Table of Time from Master Studies in single strokes, just going up and down that, hands and feet. I do 20 minutes on that before I start doing anything. I try and do it 3-4 days a week, and then I play and record. And that's it. And like I'm trying to do a little bit of open-handed, but it's more like I'm not sitting doing strict open-handed. I'm going to play a bit of open. I'm trying to take a much more casual approach and like a sort of how does this sound approach, rather than I'm not really trying to improve technically anymore. if that makes sense. I think I've got enough technique. Now I'm trying to figure out what actually sounds good. So I'm actually cutting things out. So I've reached that stage that I've been after for years where, you know, adding sort of, I don't know, the ability to play 5/7 isn't going to get what's out here to here any easier. And I reserve the right to change my mind on that in 6 months, but I don't think I will. So yeah, the table of time is very good, especially for double paddle. And single strokes really forces you to feel where the changes are. And then go through it in inverted doubles. That's another one.
That actually, the inverted doubles actually help a lot, the doubles.
Yeah. It's from Jeff Sipe. Do you know him?
Nope.
Jeff Sipe?
Nope.
Yeah. You have?
Nope.
No, never heard of Jeff Sipe. Oh my God. Check him out. He's amazing. He used to play with Sean Lane, the guitarist, and Jonas Hellborg. I'll send you some links, but I think you really like his playing. He's a jazz fusion drum.
Okay.
Ooh. Let's end it with this. What would you say to your younger self?
Oh, only one thing?
No.
Because there's a list.
How long is that list?
Very. Do you know what? I would go. So technically, from a pure practicing point of view, I would stick my younger self in front of a copy of page 38 and teach him how to do singles, doubles, and paradiddles through that page. Because I came to that, but I came to it, and I'd say, don't worry about anything else for the next 15 years. Just get good at that, because it covers most of what you're trying to do. So if you're doing eighths, triplets, and sixteenths, and the reason I would say that is because I realized now, fairly recently, in the last 5 years, that all my phrasing is based off of that page, because it works. And the other thing I would do is teach him the observation exercise. I think that would have been life-changing if I'd known that back then, because I was horrible stage fright, absolutely zero faith in my own playing. And that, like, maybe, I mean, it's very easy to sort of say, maybe don't take it so seriously, but like, I don't know sort of how you put across to somebody you don't suck as much as you think you do.
But the question is, do you think that not having faith on your playing is directly connected to stage fright? Because I have no stage fright, and I don't give a slightest fuck about my playing, and I know I'm not as great as I would like to be. So
no, I suppose it's so that's a complicated one to answer, so I'll keep it short. From my point of view, it wasn't that I wasn't as good as I wanted to be, it's that I wasn't good, and no matter how good I got, it was never good.
No, but that's the thing. I was trying to be nice to myself, but the thing is, I'm rubbish. Always been. I should be a much better drummer than I am, especially now playing drums for more than 35 years, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not. But since the very first time I played, when I was in front of people, when I was 16 years old, and I was even worse than I am now, I felt so great being on stage.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any illusions back then that, oh yeah, I'm great.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is tell you what it was like for me. I don't know. I can't draw any. If the connection's not there, then there isn't one. But that was what it was like for me. I knew as soon as I felt like I had some control over that, everything else got easier. Yeah. So, and don't take it so fucking seriously. That's the other thing. And you won't get girls. There, that one.
Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to say. I started obviously because of girls, and it was. Oh man, was I wrong?
You know. Anyway, yeah, there you go.
Very good.
Long list of things I might say to my younger self.
Great.
Cool. Alrighty. Thank you, boss. Thank you very much.
Thank you.